Hi there, it's Gabriele here from pilotclimb.com, and in today's video we're going to talk about the VOR approaches. First we're going to go through on a VOR approach chart, we're going to do a good briefing, and then we're going to fly the approach chart with a Cessna 172. So without further delay, let's dive into it. Alright guys, first thing first. The chart that we're going to use is a Jeppesen approach chart of a VOR procedure that is out of date. So this chart is good for training and illustration purposes only. Don't use it please during operations. Don't go tomorrow and fly around with that chart. The second advice that I want to give you is that the Cessna 172 is not the type of aircraft that I normally fly. I'm a trainer, captain, and instructor, flying instructor on the Boeing 737. So that's my aircraft, but today I downloaded X-plane 11 and I saw that there is this nice 172 in there that goes quite slow, that allow us to do a nice lesson in order to make sure that we understand exactly what a VOR approach is and how to fly it. If I would have used the Boeing 737 straight away, it might have been too fast to understand what's going on. Leave me a comment below if you want to see the same VOR approach but on the 737-800. So, as you can see here, we've got this approach chart, which is the Alghero VOR approach chart for running to zero. I've chosen this approach because it's my first video where I explain how to fly a VOR approach, and Alghero is Sardinia, where I'm from. That's the reason why. It's important as a pilot to have a good structure when doing a briefing about a VOR or about any procedure. Okay, you don't want to read the procedures going from, let's say, from here to there, then to there, okay? You really need to have a good structure in order to make sure that you don't miss anything or you don't leave any information behind. As you can see in the picture, there are lots of information in the chart and you need to make sure that you know and understand the important stuff, okay? The structure that I've been using for the last 10 years flying the Boeing 737 doing IFR operations is the following. I always start from the top and then I read everything going all the way down to the bottom. Normally, for every line I go left to right, okay, I check a big picture on the graphic part of it, then I check the vertical profile, then I read this part here, okay, always left to right, and then I check, depending on my aircraft category, I'm gonna read all the information that are required. First of all, if you don't know what your aircraft approach category is, go and check the video that I've made where I explain everything that you need to know in order to understand the aircraft approach categories. So now let's see what this chart says. All right, so from the top to the bottom, we see that this is a Lima India Echo Alpha is the ICAO code, and Alpha Hotel Oscar is the IATA code. Fertilia is the airport, the name of the airport, and what we've got here, 23rd of December 2011 was the revision of the chart. Okay, 13-3 is the index page, and we've got the VOR runway to zero, where it says what the procedure is. Then we have got, from left to right again, we've got the 80s frequency that by now, before the approach, you always need to take the 80s frequency because you need to know what's the weather like at your destination, and you need to know if the weather is above the minimums. Then we've got the frequency to contact the approach and the frequency to contact the tower. If we move down, then we've got the VOR Alpha Echo Alpha frequency, 111.65, and this is the most important frequency that we need. If you look at the chart in here, you will see that Alpha Echo Alpha is on the center. This is the runway in there, you see? That is the runway, and all the procedure is based on the Alpha Echo Alpha. So it's paramount that actually we use Alpha Echo Alpha as the main reference for this procedure. Then we've got the final approach course, which is the 205, and is exactly this one, okay? Is the last radial inbound that we need to intercept. Then we've got a minimum altitude check, so it's an altitude check at 7 miles, 2,200 feet. This is an extremely important altitude distance and altitude check because in this position we've got this cross here, which is the FAF. Okay, this black cross there is the FAF. And here is paramount that you check your altitude, okay? So you arrive at 7 nautical miles and you need to be at 2,200 feet. That's really important that you are there at that altitude, at that distance, because from there, as you can see, you start the final descent, okay, all the way down to the decision altitudes. Then we've got decision altitude of 620. In this case, all the categories, as you can see, there is no categories in here, have the same decision altitude, but sometimes you can find different decision altitude depending on your approach category. We've got the airport elevation of 87 feet, and then we've got the MSA here. If you don't know what MSA is, I've done another video where I explain what it is and how it works. But for this procedure, we see that the MSA use the alpha equal alpha as a center, so the alpha equal alpha is located in here. And if we draw down the MSA, here we go, we will see that during our approach, we are on the 4,100 feet sector. And in case of missed approach, which is this dashed line, we will see that we're gonna be on the 3,200 feet sector, okay? Because the MSA, you can draw the MSA over the VOR, the center of the MSA, and we will know exactly in which sector are we in the MSA, okay? So if we move on, then we've got in here, we've got the missed approach box where it says, in case of go around, for any reason, if you don't see the runway, for example, we have to proceed to the VOR, climbing to 3,000 feet, leave the VOR on radial 200, outbound to diesel. As you can see here, we have to cross the VOR, leave the VOR at radial 200 to 3,000 feet, and then go to diesel. Diesel is this point in here, if you see in there, and is on the radial 200 from alpha equal alpha on the radial 200 at distance of 8 nautical miles. So what we have to do in case of go around, continue straight ahead of the VOR, continue straight, climb 3,000, and when we are on the radial 200 and we reach 8 nautical miles on the DME, distance measuring equipment, we know that we are over diesel. Again, if you don't know what the DME is and how it works, I made a separate video where I actually explain everything you need to know. Again, I'm gonna try to remember to put the links in the descriptions. Then we've got some other information on the box below. Here we've got altitude setting is in hectopascal, run elevation is 3 hectopascal, we've got threshold altitude by ATC, threshold level by ATC, threshold altitude 6,000 feet. DME is required. Why it says DME is required is because, as you can see here, all the points there are, all the points in there are based on a distance, okay? As you can see, the FAF, 7 nautical miles, 10 miles there, so you really need to have the DME. If you don't have the DME, you cannot do this approach. You need to find an approach based on the VOR, but you need to find an approach based on time. So you need, instead of tracking miles, you need to track times. But in this case, we have the VOR on board, so that's not a problem for us. Now, if we go down to the graphic part, we will see that from the VOR, all right, we have to leave on the radial 034, as you can see in there, okay, until 10 nautical miles alpha equal alpha. As you can see here, we've got two different outbound radial, one is 034 and the other one is 051. 051 is for category Charlie and Delta, and 034 is for category Alpha and Bravo. The Cessna 172 is category Alpha, and the Boeing 737 is category Charlie. So depending on your category, you should know what category, what's the category of your aircraft, you should follow a different radial. Okay, if you have a category Alpha and Bravo, you should follow the radial 334 outbound. If you have the category Charlie and Delta, you should follow the radial 051. Alright, so then at 10 nautical miles, we're gonna turn left, okay, to intercept and follow the radial 205 inbound. Then from there, what's gonna happen is that we're gonna fly all the way down to the runway, okay, until the decision altitude. If we look below that, we will see that the VOR, this point there, which is this one is the alpha equal alpha, we have to cross 4,000 feet. So we need to be at 4,000 feet by there. Then on, as you can see here, 035 or 051, depending on the aircraft category, as we just explained, we go on the 034 for our case, and in this section here, from there to there, we can go down to 3,000 feet, as it says in here, all right? Then, in here we can be 3,000 feet, then is a left turn, and then once we crossed again the 10 nautical miles point, we can go down from 3,000 all the way down to 2,200 feet at 7 nautical miles, which is this point in there, okay? So now what I'm doing, I'm basically cross-checking the two profiles, the two sections, the graphic section and the profile section. Alright, so now we've got, so here 4,000, descend to 3,000, left turn 10 nautical miles, 3,000 feet, we can go down to 2,200 until 7 nautical miles, 7 nautical miles, and then from 7 nautical miles we continue down. The question is, how do we know that we are in profile or not if we don't have the glide slope? Here we've got the distances from 7 nautical miles, okay, from our FAF, alright, we have to be at 2,200, which is the same as this point in there, okay. Then we've got 6 nautical miles, 1890, 5 nautical miles, 1570, 4 nautical miles, 1250, 3 nautical miles, 940, 2 nautical miles, 630. 630 is very close to our decision altitude. So by the time we got to 2 nautical miles and we are 630 feet, we should see the run. If we don't see the run, we execute the missile approach. Alright? So it is very important that we actually cross-check what is our altitude in that distances, okay? But what is the rate of descent we have to maintain in order to keep descending on the correct descent angle? That in this case is 3 degrees. The approach is 3 degrees. This one is a 3 degrees descent angle, okay? So we have, depending on our speed, we will have to maintain a certain number of feet per minute. With a Cessna, roughly we're gonna go down by 90 knots, so we have to keep around 478 feet per minute. If it's 500, that's not a big deal. If it's 400, not a big deal, but we make sure that it's not 1000 or it's 100. So we need to maintain this range pretty much. What will happen? Let's say we arrive at 7 nautical miles at 2,200 feet, which is the correct point. If at 6 miles we are at 2,000 feet, that means that we are slightly above. And instead of maintaining this 478, we will increase slightly, let's say 500, 600 feet per minute. Then at 5 nautical miles, we do the other altitude check. If we are on profile, we will reduce again the vertical speed because now we are back on the 3 degrees. If we are below, we will reduce even further because our target is to be on these 3 degrees. Okay, so let's say we are here, so we need to descend more, but more in order to intercept the 3 degrees and descend with 3 degrees. If we are here, slightly below, let's say, if we are slightly below, we need to descend less in order to intercept again the 3 degrees. Then once we are inside the 3 degrees, we have to descend with the 3 degrees descent angle. Fantastic. Now the next section here is basically telling us that we've got PAPI left and right, and we've got the high intensity approach light system. It's just the approach light system. In the table here, we've got a resume of our missile approach in case of go around, which is straight ahead alpha equal alpha and the frequency 111.65 to 3,000 feet, left on radial 200 from alpha equal alpha and then to diesel. So basically, this box is quite useful because sometimes when you do the missile approach, you're a bit busy and maybe sometimes you don't remember the missile approach procedure. What will happen is that if you look straight to this box in there, you will find out that you can really read very quickly what you have to do. As you can see here, continue straight to the VOR to 3000, left hand and intercept the radial 200. So you don't need to read the text part because maybe you're flying the plane, you're trying to understand where you are. Just looking at the picture, you will know straight away where are you and where you should go as well. Then for the minima, the decision altitude, as we said, is 620 feet for this approach, and we've got the minimum RVR is 1,700 meters for all category, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. So the circle to land, we're not gonna fly circle to land, so we can escape that. Alright, so I hope it's clear, this part, and if you have any question, leave a comment below and I will answer you. Now let's move on and let's go into the plane. Welcome on board of our Cessna 172. Again, that's not the type of aircraft that I normally fly, so if you see me doing something strange, don't worry, okay? That my goal today is to show you how to fly a VOR approach. It's not how to fly a Cessna 172 because this is not the type of aircraft that I normally fly. So maybe I'm gonna do some mistakes on touching some buttons, but because I'm not very used to fly this plane. The last time I've flown the Cessna 172 was 15 years ago. So what I want to make sure that it's clear is how to fly the VOR. So let's get focused on the instrument approach part, okay? So as you can see here, I can actually show you, show map, no, yes. As you can see here, we are here, all right? So we are in this position there, inbound the Alpha Echo Alpha VOR, which is in there. Let me see if I can make it clear. Yeah, well, this is the airport and the Alpha Echo Alpha is just there, okay? We are in this position here. So if we draw the position in the chart, our airplane is in there, okay? So what will happen is that we're gonna fly the VOR and then leave on the 034 and then all the way down to 10 miles as discussed already. So now what we're gonna do, and we're gonna fly through the approach, and then sometimes we're gonna stop the flight sim and discuss what will happen in order to make sure that everything is clear and we don't leave anything behind. If you are ready, we go flying. Let's go. Alright, a quick briefing about the plane here. We've got the VOR number 2, VOR number 1, VOR number 2. In here, we will look only at this part here. We don't use the GPS because we want to do a real 100% IFR flight, okay? So, instrument flight. So as you can see, I set already the 111.65, which is the frequency of alpha echo alpha, as we briefed already, and you can see in here, all right? And I put in here, since the alpha echo alpha is a VOR DME, we can read the distance from here and the radial that's how we are, okay? So that's the distance. We're gonna read the distances in here, and we're gonna read the radials in here, all right? And then, of course, we're gonna read all the other parameters using the normal thing. This is the autopilot. I'm gonna try to fly the plane with the autopilot. This is a completely different autopilot that I'm used to be honest, especially on the altitude capture, because I give you an example. The Boeing 737, you set an altitude and it's gonna level off in alone. You know, you just need to monitor the plane. But with this autopilot, it doesn't have the altitude capture feature. You have to do it. I hope I will not forget, and I hope I will not bust any level. But let's try. As you can see, we are on the radial, we've got on radial 034 inbound already. So we are here, and we are approaching the VOR, okay? We are 6.7 nautical miles from the VOR, 6.9 nautical miles from the VOR here, and we are at 4,000 feet, and is as well the minima of the chart. And then we've got a speed of 90 knots, all right? So we're gonna pretty much go between 90 and 120 knots along the approach, okay? But again, this is not, my goal is not to show you how to fly the plane today, it's to show you how to do the VOR approach, all right? And basically that's it. So let's try to shoot this approach and see what happens, okay? As you can see here, we've got this 2, so 034 radial with a 2 is because the plane is in 2. So this is the radial 034, okay? But because we are behind the VOR, behind the source, behind the actual antenna that give us the radial 034, is show us that we are in 2, okay? Once we cross the VOR and we go outbound the radial 034, since our VOR is at the back, all right, it's gonna show us that we are from, because we are flying 034 from the VOR. Let's move on and let's get this thing rolling. So as you can see here, we've got 6 nautical miles. We've got the 6.8 nautical miles outbound. We are on the radial 034 and on the heading 034. So if nothing changed, we should maintain this heading and this radial all the way down. If the radial goes slightly to the right, I will try to correct in order to arrive over the VOR as much, super correct on the radial 034 exactly, but always remember that when you get close to the DME and VOR, don't do any corrections because the VOR DME is very sensitive, so don't try to follow a radial once you are 1-2 miles away, okay? Just stay on the heading and wait until the VOR change from to from, okay? And then once you pass the VOR and you are on from, then yes, you intercept the next radial. Alright, so 5.8 nautical miles, everything is looking great. We've got the correct altitude, which is 4,000 feet, is the minimum altitude for our approach. We've got the speed is still good, okay, it's not a big deal. We can actually accelerate that a little bit more. The heading is fantastic, the attitude is good, and outside we've got, it's night time, so everything is looking great. So now that the radial is coming in again, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put radial 034 in order to fly into the radial, because what happens is, if you don't, once you are inside the radial, if you don't put the same heading, you're gonna overshoot the radial. If you put the heading afterwards, you're gonna fly parallel to the radial and not inside the radial, okay? So 4.7 nautical miles, the only thing we have to do is to wait until we actually get the radial. So we actually get above the VOR. As you can see, that's the airport there, which is looking great. And we look inside, okay, everything seems perfect. All right, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put the, I'm gonna accelerate the simulator to get, well, no, actually no, I'm gonna leave it like that because we are over 3 nautical miles, it's fine. So, when I'm flying FR, the next thing that you have to ask yourself, always be ahead of the plane, okay? So what's next? The next point, as we briefed already, once we cross the VOR, and we are now 4,000 feet, once we cross the VOR at 4,000, we can descend to 3,000, and we have to maintain this 3,000 until 10 nautical miles, okay? So that's gonna be our next target. So after we cross the VOR, and we see that it's gonna go from to from, we can descend to 3,000 feet. All right, so as discussed already, as you can see, the radials are doing something, starting to moving a little bit. I can make a small correction there, not very big, and then I will wait. Okay, the speed is going a little bit too, we're going a little bit too fast, just going to decrease the speed a little bit. Okay, 2 nautical miles. The radial are going slightly away, but that's not a big deal since we are close, it's normal. We don't have to follow them, you know, trying to be in the radar all the time because we are very close. So we will wait a little bit and see what happens. Okay, we got in there. The heading is all right. Everything is fine. 1.9 nautical miles. Still in 2. Okay, we are still 2 the VOR on the radial 034 2. All right. So I'm just gonna make slightly. As you can see, the radial is going to the left. Just gonna go slightly on the left, not much, okay? I'm not gonna try to follow the radial perfectly because we are too close now. If I start to do this, I'm gonna go left and right like a crazy because the radials are getting very narrow now, okay? So 1.3 nautical miles, we are still in 2. 1.2, 1.1. Okay, so it looks like that we are almost over the VOR. 1 nautical miles. As you can see, the radial are going away, but to be honest, I'm not too concerned about that. Okay, I wait until I cross the VOR because then is when I want to make the good correction, intercept the radial outbound. All right, so 0.6, the radial are again going slightly more to the left. Still in 2. Both VOR are still in 2. Okay, 0.3. We wait until we cross the VOR and we see this arrow there that goes from 2 to from, and that we know that we are in the outbound radial. So 0.1 now. Here we go. So now it is in from. The radial is still on the left, so I'm going to apply a little bit of correction to the left to intercept the radial 034. And as we discussed already, we can descend now. So I'm going to go by 700 feet per minute, I'm gonna descend to 3,000 feet. All right, as you can see now, the radial is coming in very nicely, so I'm gonna go back on the heading 034. So now we are perfect because the aircraft is descending at around 700 feet per minute from 4,000 to 3,000 feet, and we are in the right radius. Okay, the distance is here 0.8. So what just happened is that we went from here, okay, so we had the 2 information from the VOR. Once we were over the VOR, the VOR did basically change his information from to, and it changed to from, okay, sorry for the word, but so once we passed the VOR, the radial became from. As you can see here, we've got the from information there, okay. So what I did, now we are exactly on the 034 radial from, and we're gonna fly all the way down to the 10 nautical miles point. Where do we see that we are on 10 nautical miles? Again, it's in here because I set up the correct frequency in there. All right, and now as well we left 4,000 feet, as you can see here, and we are descending on the 3,000 feet in there. All right, I hope that everything is clear so we can actually move on. So let's go. Now I'm monitoring the radials. Radials are great. They are going slightly to the right, so I make a small correction to the right. So 3,700 feet, we've got 1.1 nautical miles. That's all good. The speed is good, the altitude is good, altitude is coming, and the vertical speed is 700 feet descending. The engine is on the green parameters. So everything is looking pretty nice and clean. So now back on the radial 034, so I adjust slightly on the left the heading because I want to fly on the radial, on the heading of the radial, so I don't fly any parallel to that, okay? Because if you wait too much, then you're gonna fly parallel and you will not intercept the radial anymore. So again, it's a constant cross-check. Flying IFR is a constant cross-check that everything is working, okay? You never sleep, because the day you sleep, okay, then is when something else will go away, okay? When you get too focused on the distance, for example, you're gonna lose the altitude. When you're gonna get too focused on the altitude, you're gonna lose the speed. When you're gonna get too focused on the speed, you're gonna lose the vertical. So it's a constant cross check, okay? It's a constant check that all the informations are where they should be, okay? For example, now we are approaching the altitude, so I'm gonna reduce the vertical speed. So now we are at 3,000 feet because we've got the restriction as we discussed already in the chart. And now that I know that I still have 7 nautical miles, so I still have a little bit of time, I can get focused on the other parameters. As you can see, the radial it's okay, but it's not perfect, so I can actually give him a little bit correction to the left to get straight into exactly into the radial, okay? And then I continue to I still do a cross check. Now we are at 3.7 nautical miles. So in the chart we are kind of like there, okay? Exactly on the radial, going in there at 3,000 feet already, okay? So that looks great. The speed is a little bit too slow. I add a little bit of thrust, okay? 3,000 feet, everything is great. Radial is great, heading is great, everything looks fantastic. The attitude is perfect, the vertical speed doesn't change, the speed is great, and the distance as well is not too bad, okay? For 4, as you can see, we are from again, so the VOR is behind us, okay, from, and the distance is increasing. So everything for the moment makes sense. I hope it will keep making sense. Alright, so 4.7, everything looks great. And we wait until we see the 5 nautical miles. That's why I choose the Cessna 172, because it gives us the time to discuss what's going on. On the Boeing 737, this leg of 10 miles at 200 knots, we will have made it in 3 minutes, in less than 3 minutes, yeah, because flying at 200 knots is 20 miles every 6 minutes, and it's 10 miles every 3 minutes. So it will have given, I would not have the time to discuss what is going on in here, okay? But again, leave a comment below if you want me to do the same procedure flying the Boeing 737. So 5 nautical miles, everything is great, 3,000 feet, speed is good on the green arc, and everything looks phenomenal. So 6 nautical miles, again, speed is good, everything is fine. In here, for example, in this part, always remember as well, you have to do your descent checklist, your approach checklist. You have to make sure that everything is done, get ready for landing. I'm not going to do any checklist because, first, I'm not familiar with the checklist of the 172. Second, it's not the goal, it's not the goal for today, okay? It's not the target. The target for today is to know how to fly the VOR procedures, to fly IFR, okay? We're going to discuss about the checklist in separate videos. Fantastic. So we've got 7 nautical miles in there. The radials are very good. That's not a big deal. So now I'm thinking already on the next step. So the next step is going to be this one. So the next step, if you look at the chart, we have to intercept the 205 inbound. Since we have 2 VORs and one is on the 034, I can set already the 205 in there in order to make sure that I've got already the VOR selected for the approach, okay? Because I don't want to wait until I get to the actual inbound, because then it's going to be too late to set up and I'm gonna be behind the aircraft. That's your target, to be always ahead. As you can see now, I've got the VOR number 2 is tracking me the first radial outbound, and the VOR number 1 is tracking me the 205 inbound, which I don't use yet because I'm still on the 034 outbound. But later, once I do the turn, I will need the VOR number 1 in order to track the 205 inbound. Fantastic. So we've got now 9 miles. We are getting close to our 10 nautical miles distance point. So it seems that everything is great. All right. So now, before starting the turn, I want to discuss something very important in order to intercept the final approach in a correct way. Okay, if you look at the chart, we will see that once we are here, all right, once we are here at the 10 nautical miles point, what will happen is, if we do a perfect turn, we might be able to do in one turn a nice to intercept the radial 205 inbound nicely if we do the perfect turn as depicted in the chart. But many times you will have some crosswind from here, so when you turn, you're gonna be like that. Okay, you're gonna turn inbound the VOR radial, so you don't wanna keep do one turn on the 205 because again you're gonna fly parallel and you will never intercept the radial inbound. Or it's true if there is the wind, for example, in the other side and you turn, and then what's gonna happen is that you're gonna overshoot the radial inbound, and if you don't apply a correction, then you're gonna fly again parallel to the radial, okay? Because if you select the 205 once you are outside the turn and you have overshoot the turn, you will never intercept the 205 again. So in this case, if you see that you have overshoot the 205, put a heading for a correction, you will get established inbound and then you continue the 205. Okay, this is a big correction, but just to make the idea clear, okay? So what will happen is, if this is the case, you arrive here, you don't put the 205, but maybe you won't have an heading of 180, 190 in order to get again established inbound and then follow the 205. The opposite is true. If you finish your turn inside, you want to apply an heading correction that is more than 205, otherwise you're going to fly parallel, and you want to keep a heading of 235, for example, or 220, depending on how far is your radial, okay? So if you, let's say you are here, you want to put 215 or 220, okay? And then once you're on 205 again, that your radial is centered, you want to put 205 and follow the radial inbound, okay? Always remember that, as you can see, on the VOR instrument here has got these dots, okay? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. When we are half of scale, like in this case, you see, half of scale is here, okay? This is half of scale. Let me see if I can do it in this way, if it works. No, it doesn't. But anyway, once you are on half of scale, that means you are established on the radial inbound. Then is when you can actually start the descent, because if you look at the chart again, we have to maintain 3,000 feet, okay, during the turn, and then once we cross this 10 nautical miles point, we can go down, if we look in here, okay, from 3,000 at 10 nautical miles point, we can go down to 2,200. So it's very important that we get established in order to start the descent, because if you are not established, you cannot start the descent, okay? So that's gonna be our next target, okay? To get this half scale deflection, get established, and get down to 2,200 until 7 nautical miles, where we do an altitude check. Fantastic. Let's see how it works. 9.5, 9.6, fantastic, 3,000 feet, everything seems quite nice and smooth. We've got the radial up there already selected, so 205 we've got it in there already, 9.9, 10 nautical miles, here we go. So now we're gonna start our turn to the 205 and we monitor our radial intersection. As you can see, the aircraft is turning to the left. I continue turning, here we go. I'm gonna select 205 in here. That's pretty much 205, and we will see how does it go, okay? If I see that when I'm getting close, I don't have the radial yet, I apply the corrections, okay? If you don't know how to intercept radial or how does the radial indication works, leave me a message in the comments below and I will make a video about that, okay? So we are turning in there, everything looks great, we are approaching the 205, the radial is coming in nicely. We might overshoot the radial a little bit, but we will see, okay? Or we might be just about right, okay? So we are now 10.7 nautical miles, 10.6. That's normal because we are doing the turn. Look at that. So that's a great turn, and we're gonna be exactly on the radial inbound at the exact heading. So we don't need to apply any correction as we discussed earlier. So look at that. We can see as well the runway in there, 205. That's what we're gonna get in a second. Here we go. Look, perfect centered. Perfect center, everything is great, 10 nautical miles, so now we can actually descend to the 2,200 feet per minute. Sorry, 2,200 feet altitude. I'm gonna stop for a second the simulator because now in this section here we're gonna be super busy because we have to monitor that we are in the right radial, and we have as well to monitor that we lose these 800 feet, the difference between 3,000 and 2,200. So that is something that you have to understand that now is the time when you're gonna be quite busy, okay? Let's go and see how it goes. So now the radial is fantastic, we've got 9.5 nautical miles and we are descending to 2,200. So I'm gonna apply slightly more rate of descent in order to make sure that you get established before the 7 miles so you can do the altitude check in there. It's gonna go minus 900. Alright. So we've got 9 nautical miles. It's gonna go minus 1,000 and I reduce the speed as well. The radial is good, the heading is fantastic. They were approaching the heading, 8.6 nautical miles. Good. So I can slightly start reducing the vertical speed because we are approaching the 2,200. We've got 2,300 in there. I leave 700 feet per minute. Here we go. So 1 mile to go to the FAF, and we are really good on the altitude. We are approaching the altitude. Here we go, 2,200. Here we go, and I stop at 2,200 and I wait until I reach there 7 nautical miles. Okay, the radial is good and everything is fine. As you can see here, this is I'm gonna stop the simulator for a second. Okay, this is the runway. As you can see, we are quite offset, and that's why the VOR approaches are non-precision approach. They are called the precision approach. They bring us really established inbound localizer. Now we are inbound here. Alright, in this part there, and what you will see is that we are already at 2,200 after we cross the 7 nautical miles point, the 7 nautical miles point at 2,200 feet. What we have to do, the final descent, okay? So the final descent will start from the FAF, as we discussed earlier, and it's gonna go all the way down. We need to make sure that we do the correct altitude check at 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and so on. And the vertical speed that we have to use is the one that we discussed earlier. At the moment, we are maintaining a speed of 100 knots. 100 knots, that means that we need to maintain 530 feet per minute. During my experience as a professional pilot, I can tell you a very good advice. I can give you a good advice to know straight away what's the vertical speed that you need in order to descend on the 3 degrees descent angle without looking at the chart. The example is as follows. If you take your speed, okay, you should use the ground speed, but in this case, when the speed is low, there is little wind, you can use this speed in there. Anyway, you should have the ground speed somewhere in the aircraft, but I don't see, most probably you got it in air somewhere because this is a GPS, I'm sure you've got it in there. But anyway, if there is not much of wind, you can use this one. If you take the 100, you divide by 2 and you add that 0, that's gonna give you your vertical speed per minute. So you take your ground speed, you divide it by 2, so in this case 100, you divide it by 2 is 50, add a 0, 500. That's the vertical speed that you have to keep in order to stay on the 3 degrees descent, okay? For example, when I fly the 737, I normally fly 150, 140 knots on final approach with flaps selected and everything. That gives me, if I'm flying 150, I know that I need to keep 750 feet per minute to maintain the 3 degrees, because 150 divided by 2 is 75, I add that 0, and that is my vertical speed. Alright, so let's move on and see what happened. We've got here 7.3 nautical miles, so we are approaching the FAF, we are at 2,200 feet, a vertical speed 0, the radial is fantastic, and everything else is looking pretty awesome. Let's see, and let's continue. So 7.2, and I get ready to start the descent. 7 nautical miles, we do the altitude check, 2,200 feet, and that's perfect. I select the 600, let me put 800 because I did some mistakes in here, for minutes, and we do the altitude checks. Okay, we've got now, that next altitude check is 6 miles, 1890, alright? So 6 miles, 1890, we are approaching that, and we've got 6.2, 6 miles, Here we go, so we are slightly below. So I'm gonna reduce to 400 feet per minute the vertical speed, okay? The speed is slightly too fast. On the 5 miles we should be 1570. And that's the altitude. Okay, so 1570. Gonna put 500 again. Here we go. So I'm gonna leave 400 feet, okay? So we've got here 5 miles, approaching 5 miles, we should be 1570. So looks like that we are going back on profile, right? So 5 miles, probably slightly below, but we corrected, okay? So 5 miles here, we've got 1570. We are perfectly, slightly below, so I'm gonna leave 400 feet. I check my altitude, my speed, sorry, is 90 knots, so I need 450 feet per minute, and I keep this 400 in there. Next altitude check, we've got 4 miles, 1250. I can look already outside, I see the puppies in there, which is good. We've got 4 miles, 1250. So the speed is looking good, 1250. Always remember to do your landing checklist, configure for landing, and make sure that everything is done properly, okay? 4 nautical miles, we are exactly on profile. That's very good. So I check again, we are flying 80 knots, so I need 400 feet per minute to maintain the 3 degrees, and that's exactly what we've got. 3 nautical miles is the next altitude check, 940. I keep this, I don't change anything because it's working. So 90-40 for the 3 nautical miles points. 80 knots on descent, which is great. We've got 3 nautical miles is approaching and we should be at 90-40. Again, vertical speed 400, the altitude is decreasing, everything is perfect, the speed is great. Again, altitude is perfect, 940 we are approaching, we've got 960 slightly, well, we are on profile again. Yeah, 29, and now the next one, 2 nautical miles, 630, and then it's gonna bring us to our descent, the decision altitude, okay? The radial is slightly off, I just apply a small correction in there, okay? And we've got 2 nautical miles. We are approaching our decision altitude. In this case, since you are already visual with the puppy, you can disregard the altitude checks because you can follow the puppies. But for training purpose, let's continue with the altitude checks. Okay, we are approaching the 2 nautical miles point. We are approaching our decision altitude, and now is when you should start looking around and make sure you have the correct indications. 2 nautical miles, and we have got. Here we go, 640 feet. We've got everything inside. We can continue the approach. In this case, is when you disconnect and fly and align yourself for the landing. All right. So guys, I stopped the video here because I'm not gonna show you how to land the plane because most probably it's not gonna be a fantastic landing since I don't have any. My simulator is very basic. I just downloaded this simulator to show you today how to fly the VOR approach. But I hope it was clear. Okay. First of all, the biggest thing you have to understand: be ahead of the plane. Okay. Anytime you are in step the radial outbound, you have to think already at the base. When you are at the base, you have to think already at the inbound, at the final approach track. You have to think already in the next step what you have to do, when you have to descend, to which altitude you can descend. Okay, if you think in this way, you are 1-2 steps ahead of the plane, and it will make extremely easy for you to fly the non-precision approach. All right, so I hope everything is clear. If you have any question, leave a comment below with a question. Okay, leave a comment below as well if you want to see the same approach or another approach flown on the Boeing 737-800. It's gonna be a lot faster, but it's gonna be a good fun, and it's gonna be my plane, so I'll be very familiar with all the indications. And subscribe to the channel if you like. Give it a like to the video, and go and check pilotclimb.com for free training pilot content. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.